Hi, if you are watching right now, this is the replay. We are no longer live, but welcome. I'm doing a custom order for Jeana today. She has a Catalina. The pattern is by Rosa. She has a key fob, which is just a pattern that I made up. I'll give you the dimensions when I start sewing it. And then she has a passport holder, which is a pattern that I have available on my site. Hey, you guys. Happy Thursday. Hello. Hey, Kayla. Hey, Elizabeth. Hey, Claire. Hey, Julie. Hey, family. Hey, Cindy. How are you? I cannot believe that we are in December. Do you hear me? Hey, Frida. Ready for some fun. Hey, Christy. Hey, Red Tess. Hey, Margarita. Tara. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Just Mammy. I've been waiting all day. So this is a custom order for Jeana. I think her TikTok name is Jeana Wall. So if you guys see her or if she comments, if you can pin it for me. Hi, Carrie. So today I am making a Catalina, which is a crossbody bag. I'm also making a passport holder and a key fob for her. Hi, Stacy. Hey, Judy. So I'm just going to give her another minute, see if she jumps on. I don't want to start without her. I don't want to start without her. Actually, I'm going to do the key fob first because that's a really fast sew. She has this really pretty moose print. So this is her passport holder and she had it customized with her name, but all of her items have this print. So this is her passport holder. I'm going to set this aside and do the key fob first. So I tried to get that pattern down as small as possible so that it would show really well on the key fob. So this is going to be the outside. She also chose this really pretty tie-dye for the interior. So this is going to be for the interior of the key fob, and then this is what's going to be the interior of her bag. I know I've used this before. I actually made myself a pair of shorts out of this. My website is butterbags.com. Okay, so I'm just going to get this prepped until she gets here. The key fob I make is 2 inches wide by 10 inches long, and then the interior is the same thing. And I just fold the interior one side to the halfway point, the other side to the halfway point, and then I give that a good press with my iron. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this, and instead of using an iron, I'm just going to use double-sided tape. I know, it's going to be so pretty. My scissors. Has anybody seen Jeana yet? I know she emailed me not too long ago to confirm. Okay, so I'm just gonna get this prepped. So just like the interior, I'm just going to take one edge, fold it to the center, and then do the same thing over here. Gonna leave just the tiniest bit of gap here to make this a little bit bigger than the outside. So this is what's going to show. I know it looks, the top looks upside down, but once you fold it over after you sew it, it becomes right side up. So we're going to take the folded edge, meet them together, and then clip them in place. How's everybody's week so far? I think this is the first day I've been live. I had a Christmas party to go to on Monday. They're starting early this year. And then a few other things to do this week. I'm getting those glass cases ready for sale. Those will be up on my website tomorrow. Hi. Hi. So the next step is just to sew along the edge of both sides to secure the interior and exterior together. Gonna give her another minute. After you sew it together, you just clip the bottoms and then install the hardware. I get mine from Country Brook Design. I really love their hardware. I use their squares, their rings, their key fobs. It's just really solid metal. Oh, you're here. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. You're right on time. Okay. So it's just stitched down both sides, and then I'm gonna make sure it's lined up, add a couple clips. Grab my handy dandy pliers. And then install the hardware. This is 1-inch hardware. I like to press it a couple of times on both sides to really secure that. The good thing about this key fob hardware from Country Brook Designs, on the inside they actually have these little teeth that kind of bite down on whatever you're installing it with. So it takes so much to tear this off. The other ones, I've gotten some from Amazon where it's just really flat on the inside, and those are okay, but these will almost guarantee that this will never come apart. And then they also sell these little key rings. All right, so that's the key fob. And then let's work on her passport holder. So I usually batch sew these. I already had one made. So here's what it's going to look like. This is going to be the outside, and then this is going to be the inside. And so this is sewn down around so you can fit your passport in here. This one we're going to sew through the center, and it'll allow you to insert credit cards, IDs, whatever you want. Let me set all this aside. Going to grab some fabric glue. I use Fabri-Tac. You can get this at Walmart, Michael's, Joann, any craft store. And I'm going to start by just gluing these in place. We have 3 different layers, so I want to glue all of my layers down, and then at the very end I'm just going to sew around the entire outside to keep everything together. So we want to put it just around the edge. And line that up. I'm going to do this later. First step is to sew along the center of this so that we can divide these 2 card pockets. Hey, Michelle! I'm going to kind of just look. I don't really want to mark it because it's white. So we're going to start right here at the leaf, and then we're just going to finish in the center. Going to singe those threads with a lighter. And then that is going to separate those two spots so you can put cards in each one. Now what we're going to do is install the spring snap that this clips into, and it goes over here. Why do I feel like I'm missing something? No. It's been so long since I've done this. No, we're not going to do that yet. We're going to do that after we attach the exterior. So we're going to glue these two together. Again, just a light little bit of glue on the outside. I can't remember the last time I made a passport holder. It's probably been a couple of months. All right, I want to make sure this is right side up. There we go. Now what we're going to do is actually sew this here, and then we're going to install the other spring snap over here. And we do it kind of on layers. We're going to sew this down so that this stitching is not visible. We're going to do it before we attach this pocket, and this pocket is actually going to cover this stitching over here. So I'm trying to, in my mind, think of all the steps that we need to go to. All right, so I'm going to mark. I am going to add a mark here because it's not going to be visible. Just in the center. I'm going to take that double-sided tape off. I'm going to line it up with the mark that I made, and then I'm going to push it over just a little bit to cover that mark. There we go. And then I'm just going to sew a rectangle to secure this. I'm going to pull my thread through so I can knot it off. That didn't work. There we go. So see how there's that little stitch box left behind? That's actually going to be covered with the other pocket. And we didn't want this stitch to go through the front, which is why we did that first to the inside. Okay, now we're going to install the other spring snap here. I designed it to where when I install the spring snap, it's not going to go through like the main print. So I want to make sure it is centered. Add a little mark. Grab my punch tool. Punch that out. Grab my hardware. And install that. I'm going to grab my press. Gonna check just to make sure it snaps. It does. How adorable is that? And then the last step is just to add this other side. I don't know if I need more glue. Just dry it out. Hi Diana. Sorry, I've missed some comments. I've been looking down. I haven't checked the chat. Okay, so they're going to glue this on, and then we're going to sew all the way around to combine all of these layers. Just going to add a couple clips, keep it in place. All right, and then we're going to sew. I'm going to do the same thing, just to keep a seamless line of stitching. When I start, I'm not going to back stitch because that's going to just duplicate the layers of stitching. Instead, I'm going to pull the threads through so it looks really seamless, but the stitches are still locked in. I'm going to pause, pull those through. All right, so the goal is to end my last stitching in the hole where I first started stitching. There we go. I'm going to pull that through. Just trimming it down, it's easier to knot if they're not super long threads. There we go. So I started and stopped right here, but it just makes it look a little bit nicer. All right, so her passport holder is all done. This is mine, my personal one. So you can put credit cards or IDs on one, and it'll hold multiple. So you can do, I want to say like 3. And then your passport and some cash if you want to tuck that behind. You can even probably put some cash in the top behind your ID. So you can tuck your entire passport behind it, or you can just put the back of it so that your picture is accessible. I don't want to show you guys my picture. It was like 10 years ago. It looks terrible. Okay, so that's it. That's the passport holder. So we got that, and we have her key fob, and then now we're going to move on to her bag, which is the Catalina. I'm going to set these aside. This is going to be the outside if you missed it, and then this is going to be the inside, and then she chose a black zipper for the top and then black vinyl for the coordinating excuse me, the coordinating pieces. So let's start with the zipper. This has a zipper closure. So we're going to start so the zipper panel is going to look like this, and then this is going to be underneath here for the interior. So the first step is just to take our zipper, line it up against one side of the vinyl, and then we're just going to sew that down. Where did I get the sewing table? It actually came with my sewing machine. And then now we're going to sew on the lining. And that is just going to go right side down. Gonna line that up with the outside. And then I'm gonna use that first stitch line, and I'm actually gonna go under it just a little bit. To flip those over so that the inside is behind the outside. And then I'm going to do a top stitch, and that's going to allow that fabric to lay nice and flat so it doesn't have that bubble look to it. Go ahead and sew down this side too. Just so we can take those clips off. Alright, so that's 1/2 of the zipper panel, and then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So we're going to start with the exterior, sew that to the zipper. How can I get one of your products? My website is butterbags.com. It's linked in my TikTok profile. Going to add the other interior piece, sew that on. Alright, then open that up and do a top stitch. It's a Juki 1181. It's an industrial sewing machine. Okay, just like this side, we're going to go ahead and do that top stitch in. And then we're going to set this aside. And I am going to work on the bottom of the gusset. So what I'm doing, this is going to be the front and the back of the bag. We need to add depth that goes around it. So we've got the front and the back. So what we're doing is we're making the piece that goes all the way around this that gives depth to the bag. So this is going to be at the top. And so we need to make the rest of it. So that's what I'm going to do next. This is going to be the part that goes around the rest of the bag. Okay, so I'm going to start by making the strap connector. So this is a crossbody bag, and this is what the crossbody strap is going to be attached to. So I'm just using 1/2 inch double-sided tape. And then, just like I did the key fob if you were here earlier, I'm just going to go ahead and fold one edge to the center. Then I'm going to flip it around and do the same thing on the other edge. I'm going to add a mark. This is going to get folded over, so I'm just marking where that fold ends. I'm going to grab my hardware, which are just 2D rings. I'm going to cut a couple pieces of double-sided tape. It's probably too big. I'm going to put a small piece on the end, both sides. And what that's going to do is hold that fold where I marked it. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Hi, Jeana. Oh, that looks a little too long. Oh, that's right. Maybe the other one is too short. There we go. All right. Now what I'm going to do is add some more double-sided tape. This is actually going to be centered on the bottom. This is called the bottom of the gusset. So taping it is just going to allow that to stay in place while I sew it down. So I'm just going to mark the center so I can get this nice and even. I'm actually going to draw this on because you are not going to see it. This mark is going to be underneath our connector. Alright, take off the tape backing. Oh, good, Jeana. I'm so happy. Okay, and then I'm just going to center this along the line. And then press that down. And then now I'm just going to sew it in place. And then just like before, I'm not going to backstitch. You can. This is going to be the bottom of the bag, so it's not going to get a lot of visibility, but I'm just going to pull the thread through and knot it off. Just because I'm a little extra sometimes. While I'm sewing down, I want to make sure I do not sew over those threads. Alright, just like before, the goal is to end my stitching in the same hole I started. So it looks really seamless. And I also need to check my bobbin. Don't let me forget. So here is the stitch that I started and ended in. I don't even know if you, you can't really tell. I don't know if that camera's picking it up. But pulling it through, again, it just makes it look like it's a seamless row of stitching. You can't really tell where you started and where you stopped. Check my bobbin, thanks. Because just that fast, I forgot. Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I should be able to finish it. Okay. Now we're going to attach, so this is the bottom of the bag, this is going to be the top of the bag, and now we're going to go ahead and attach it. So I'm going to put my zipper on. Uh-oh. Okay. So we're going to start by sewing this side together, and what that's going to do is allow this to become one piece of fabric. So I'm going to clip it in place, and then I'm going to sew it in place. But before I do that, so we have the interior on our zipper panel. We need to add the interior for the bottom of our gusset, which is the same material, it's just a longer piece. I'm going to go ahead and clip that in place and just sew all these layers together at one time. There we go. I'm going to trim this zipper just over my trash can so it doesn't go flying across the room. Anytime you cut a zipper, you're going to want to hit it with a lighter just to seal it, because it will unravel. Then now what we're going to do is open this up, get our interior lined up and our exterior, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a top stitch along here just to make it look really nice and pretty, and hold this down so it's a little flatter. Do you have anything you love? Oh, I missed that comment. I'm sorry. My significant other is going to be shocked. Do you have anything you love? Animals, etc. Favorite color? Anything I love. I love Jesus and my husband and my family and my dogs. I don't know if that's what you're asking, or if you're asking for something like I make, that I sell, that I love. And then now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing over here. To make this a circle, we're going to sew this part up. And we're just going to do the exact same thing. I would say my favorite color is probably black. And then we're going to match. So we have our exteriors matched together, and then now we're going to have our interiors matched together. And it looks kind of weird because we have two separate circles, but I promise it'll work. This is the Catalina by Rosa. All right, I'm going to trim that zipper. Hit it with a lighter. My air conditioner is right above me. I live in Hawaii, so that's usually on all the time. And then now we're going to go ahead, get those lined up so that we can do a top stitch just like we did here. So I'm going to just clip everything together, just kind of walk it down to the other end, because I'm going to sew these these two layers together so I can get those clips out of here. Yes, nobody believes me when I say that is my favorite color, black. There's a lot of people I've heard that that's their favorite color. It just kind of goes with everything, and it's pretty flattering, but it'll make another print pop too, right? So we're using this, which is almost all white, and this black is just going to make it pop. It's kind of hard to see now, but I promise it will. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and do a top stitch along here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and sew these two layers together so I can get rid of the clips. It's going to be a little weird. weird angle. Actually, let me reposition it. That was just too strange. Now what I'm going to do is mark the center. So we just made that gusset. Remember that piece that I told you that's going to go around the center of the front and back? Oops, like this. The part that goes around it, that's what this is. So now what we're going to do is mark the centers. That way we can get everything lined up so it's nice and even. So what I do is just at this fold here, I just clip them together, and then I'm just going to mark the center of the top on both sides. And then same thing down here. Just fold that all the way down. All right, so the centers are marked. And then now I'm going to finish the front and the back. So our gusset's done. And we're gonna kind of do the same thing. We're going to just sew the front and back together. And what I do, I interface the back of my fabric, so I have to cut a lining and interface, so I don't have to worry about cutting this oval shape for both of these. I just cut a square. It's easier for me. I interface it, I sew it, and then I just trim it down to size. So that just shaves off a little bit of time when I'm prepping this bag, just cutting out the interior square or rectangle and then just sewing it together. Anything that can shave like a little bit of time off anything, I do it. All right, so I'm just going to sew around the exterior just to combine these two pieces together. Oh, the clips, yeah. Well, you can't clip vinyl because it'll leave behind a hole. So for vinyl, you need clips. All right. I went off the side of this. It doesn't matter. That's going to be covered up. To trim this down. If you missed the post in my Facebook group with the sewing schedule this week. My next live is going to be tomorrow, right around this time at 11. And we have some eyeglass cases to stock. And then I have a couple of custom orders. They didn't request it to be made live, but if I get some time, I might just hop on and make them. It's kind of funny. They're both plaid designs. One's a blue and one's an orange, but they're almost the exact same design. And that usually never happens. When I have I usually do a week of custom orders at a time, and there's usually about 5 or 6 customers. And I've never had 2 of the same or similar prints in 1 week. Okay, let me just turn that off a little bit. Okay, so here's going to be the front or the back. It doesn't matter. They're the exact same. Jeana, which charm did you want? This one right here is going to be A. Oh, I don't want that. This is going to be B, and then this is going to be C. So here's A right here. Here is B. And then here is C. I ordered the notebook pattern and it doesn't let me download it. Oh no! Send me an email, info@butterbags.com, and if you have your order number, can you attach that, and then I can just go ahead and send you over the pattern. I'm just marking the top and the bottom center, just like we did to that gusset. These are the marks that we're going to match up to make sure everything is nice and centered. A. You got it. Where did you get your logos done? I can't remember off the top of my head. I do have a video in my TikTok, so I want to say it's like 6 or 7 rows down. I'm wearing a blue shirt and I've got a box in front of me, and I give you my supplier. I can't remember off the top of my head though. Alright, so what we're going to do, the zipper goes on top. This is our gusset that we made. So the zipper goes on top. I'm going to match that center mark to the center mark of the top. And we're going to clip this in place. And then same thing, we're going to match the center mark of the bottom to the center mark of the panel and then clip that in place. They look great, thanks. Mosh, looking for chat. Uh-oh. Can someone block that person? One of my moderators, the Moshi Dazen. Alright, so I'm going to start with the top and the bottom, and then I'm just going to pull it around the rest. That gives you kind of a really good starting point. Thank you. Same thing over here. If you find that you're unsuccessful, if you start in one place and you find that you're unsuccessful, either you have too much available when you're done or you don't have enough material available when you're done, doing this little trick where you start and stop on one side and then meet in the middle, it's gonna pretty much guarantee that you're spot on, as long as your seam allowance is correct every single time. Everything will line up nice and evenly. Tie-dye is so pretty, isn't it? I got it from Joanne. Okay, So we have our gusset just clipped in place. What I like to do, so for the corners, when we're sewing this, we have to take off the clips before we sew over, right? We can't sew over our clips. When we're sewing the corners, it's going to make it a little bit odd. So to avoid my fabric from shifting when I take off my clips, I like to add a couple staples in my corners. I'm going to take the staples out. I'm done. But this will just hold all of the fabric together while I'm sewing. And I just add staples right outside of the seam allowance. You probably can't see it. So the seam allowance is going to be like down here. Seam allowance just means where I'm sewing, so the staples won't get in the way. I'm not going to be sewing over the staples. This bag gets binding. I do my binding just a touch differently than most people. So I'll show you my preferred method. It works for me. Alright, last corner. And what binding does is it covers up the raw edge of this material. So as you can see, there's a raw edge right here, and if we don't cover that up, this material is going to fray and it just doesn't look good. So what we're going to do is cover it up with this binding. So all that's going to do is cover up that raw edge like that, just so it looks a lot prettier. So what I do is use a 2-inch wide. I can't give you the length measurements, that's a part of the pattern, but I'm giving you these measurements because I do it a little bit differently. I'm going to fold it over about a 1/2 inch and then fold down and press it. I do not have a finished edge on this part. What I like to do is line up the raw edge to the top of the material, and I'm just gonna take that, reposition my clips to include it. I'm gonna sew this down, and then I'm going to flip this over and sew it again. And that's just how I like to do binding. I also don't cut mine on the selvage. I am a rebel. Use factory? No, I make my binding, but you can purchase it. I'm not too worried about these little scraggly threads. Most of them are going to get covered when we complete the binding, but if there is any, I'll just go ahead and cut it. Okay, I'm going to trim this down just a touch. What I'm going to do is tuck this in to the first start of it where I do have those finished edges, and then clip that down. So now I'm just going to go ahead and sew all the way around. I did my staples wrong. Crap. I should have stapled from here so I can pull them out, but they're stapled from back here. That's going to be tragic. Yikes. I have to take these staples out, and I have to have a way of getting at them, and this binding is going to cover them up to pull them out, so I need to staple from over here so I can pull them out. Easy fix. So I'm just going to re-staple on the other side. This is a great time for Q&A. So while I'm doing this, I can answer some questions if anybody has any. I don't really get a chance to look up at the chat very often because I'm just looking down at what I'm doing. Can my mods just pin a really good question? Hey, Susan. You can just sew it in the binding later. Oh, sew it together now and then the binding later. Yeah, but that's just an extra step. I don't want to add too many holes, so I would be sewing over it 3 times, right? I already sewed the interior and exterior together. I would be sewing this together, and then I would be sewing another row of stitching for the binding, which isn't a big deal. Hey, what size needle do you use for sewing heavy duty fabric? This is a size 21, I believe. Here are the needles that I use. This is size 20, but I use size 20. I have a size 21 in here. What else? Okay, let's try this once more. Happy Thursday. Do you still make your peace sign bag? That was actually a custom order. So I don't have any of that in stock, but if you would like to order, like this is a custom order right here. If you would like to place a custom order, you can get that peace sign bag. Sign up is available in my Facebook group. It's titled Butter Bags. I have 2 Facebook groups, one called Butter Bags and one is Butter Bag Patterns. So if you're a sewist and you have questions about my patterns, you want to go to Butter Bag Patterns. If you want a custom order, you'll sign up in Butter Bags. Okay. Let's do this again. Does the needle pass over the staple safe? No. So I'm not going to be sewing over the staple. The staple is right along the edge, right up here. And I'm going to be sewing below the staple. So I'm not even going to be sewing the staple. Do you design your own pattern or alter existing? Both. Okay, we're back at the beginning. I'm going to tuck this in and then we are going to sew. The machine is insane. I think it can sew something like 3,000 stitches a minute. I'm going to pause and clip my thread. All right, let's take these staples out. So if you notice, the staples right here, I don't know if that's picking it up, and my stitch line is down below it. So I never sew over my staples. My stitching is always below it. All right, last corner. All right, I'm gonna double check, just make sure I don't have any more staples. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just flip over that binding so that it covers that raw edge, and then we're just going to sew that down. So that gets rid of all that raw edge, all that raw material. So I like to just flip it up first, and then I'm going to clip it down. Gonna trim that seam allowance down. I think I usually do 2 1/4 binding, and I just did 2 inches. So it's just a little snug. I'm gonna give myself a little more room just by trimming that seam allowance down. I told you guys it's been so long since I've made this bag. There we go. Much better. So just when I started, I like to start on one side, the top, the bottom, do the other side, and then kind of meet in the middle. Because I don't cut this on the bias, I just kind of crimp the corner and then clip it in place. Cutting it on the bias means that your material is kind of stretchy, so you can stretch it around without it being pleats, but I don't mind the pleats. It's so little material, it's not really that big of a deal. Alright, last corner, then we're going to sew it down. And we're almost done. All we have to do is do this on the other side, on this back side right here, and then the bag is done. All I have to do is make the crossbody strap. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and sew this down. And that's going to cover up that raw edge. Let's go with the 3 1/2. right, this side is all done. So that's what the binding looks like. Uh-oh. I hate this puzzle piece game. Okay, that's what the binding looks like. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So this is going to be the back. We're going to start by matching up those center marks. Just clip it along the straight edge. Thanks, Lisa. There's actually a custom order for Miss Jeana, who is watching her bag be made. Okay. How often do you change your needles? Once a week. The standard rule is every 8 hours, but I literally work 8 hours a day sewing, and I just don't personally think that it's necessary for me to change my needle every day. Now, if it gets like super sticky, or if I'm like skipping stitches and I've troubleshooted everything else and it's still happening, then I would change my needle. But I have found, for me personally, once a week is sufficient. All right, I'm gonna add some staples to the right side. Are we gonna be able to watch this again? Yes, I'm going to upload this to my YouTube once I'm done. Well, later today. Oh no. All right, I think we have 2 more corners. Okay, we are going to get our binding. I like to start my binding on the bottom, even though it has this seamless end to it. When we start and stop, I'd rather that be on the bottom so it's not as visible. The way that this fabric lines up, the black and the black kind of match right here on the seam, but starting it on the bottom is my preference, just so when you open up the bag that you don't see the binding on the top. Personal preference. All right, so we're just going to, I'm actually going to line this up about 1/8 inch shy of the edge. That way I don't have to trim down my seam because I didn't make this as wide as I normally do. What thread do you use for Mawak for the 1181? I use the Gutermann Mara 70. Excuse me. It's expensive. Alright, I'm gonna trim this down a little. I'm gonna tuck this in where I started. There we go. And then go ahead and sew this in place. I'm gonna open up my zipper. I think I might still have to trim the seam allowance down. We'll see. Alright, let's take out the staples. Hi, Tabitha. I'll knock those off the table. You're sewing with plain industrial. Yes, this is just a straight walking foot, straight stitch industrial. And there's nothing fancy about it. It just does one type of stitch, but it does it really, really well. All right, last one, I believe. Let me just double check. Yep. All right, let me see if I can just flip this over. It might be good. It's looking like I'm good. My hands usually get sore at this point, just from all the gripping and pulling. I think I'm just going to trim this side down just a little bit. Thanks, Just Mammy. I really love this inside lining. Okay. Done. So that's the last of it. We're just going to sew this around and then we'll turn this right side out and the bag is done. Praise be. What time is it? 12. Jenna, I don't think my mailman has come yet for the day. So I should be able to get this out into the mail to you this afternoon. Done. Let me just singe these little tiny pieces thread left behind. Just gonna double check just to make sure I don't have any more little pieces of loose thread. Okay, let's turn it right side out. Can cotton interface with SF101 be used for front and back panels? Yeah, I would probably double it up though. Use 2 layers of SF101 for the front and the back, just to make it a little bit more stable, a little bit thicker. That's what I would personally do. If you just used 1 layer, it just wouldn't be as stiff. Just pushing my seams out all the way around. So pretty. All right, let me add her charm, and then we'll add the crossbody strap. This is the crossbody strap that she wanted, which I think it looks amazing with all the different prints, textures, I guess I should say. Isn't it pretty? Jenna, I hope you love this, because I do. Okay, let's make the crossbody strap, and it will be all done, her whole order. That's the strap attachment there. Then you have a zipper pocket on the inside. All right. Just going to take one end, going to loop it through my adjustable buckle, give it a double fold, and then I'm just going to sew a rectangle to secure it. Hey Mona, I didn't see you jump in. My dog's gonna start barking. Sounds like I have a delivery. All right, and then now I just want to make sure that this is nice and flat. There's no twist to it. I'm going to add 1 lobster clasp. Going to feed that back through. Make sure it's nice and flat. And I'm going to add the other clasp, do a double fold, and then sew it in place. All right, Miss Jeana, your order is all done. Here is your crossbody bag. Here is your passport holder, and then your key fob. Why a double fold? It just is additional security. And it also covers up the raw edge of the material from where you cut off the material. That's now going to be folded under so you don't see it. So cute. All right, so I'll go ahead and get this packed up and get this shipped out first thing, well, probably within the next hour. And then I will be live tomorrow, 11 a.m. Hawaii time, to make some I Got passes. I can't thank you enough. You're welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you. Thanks for letting me make it. All right, y'all have a great afternoon. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.